Asheville sits in the Blue Ridge Mountains of western North Carolina, where the French Broad and Swannanoa rivers meet at the heart of a deep mountain valley. It is the largest city in western North Carolina, with a city population of about 94,500 at the 2020 census. The wider four-county metro area holds roughly 422,000 people, so think of a small, walkable downtown ringed by mountains and spread-out suburbs. The city sits at around 650 meters, or roughly 2,130 feet, which keeps summers milder than the lowland south. That elevation, plus the surrounding peaks, shapes most of your trip here, from the weather to the views to the long mountain drives. For drive times, Asheville is about 2 hours from Charlotte, roughly 3 hours from Knoxville, and close to 3.5 hours from Atlanta. That central position makes it an easy weekend escape for a large chunk of the Southeast, which is a big reason it draws the crowds it does. So who is this place actually for? Asheville rewards travelers who want mountain scenery, a serious craft beer scene, and a dense independent arts and food culture. It is also a strong fit for outdoor-minded visitors, with the Blue Ridge Parkway, waterfalls, and major hikes all within an easy drive of downtown. Now for the data-backed strength. Asheville has one of the highest counts of breweries per capita of any city in the United States. That density has earned it a lasting beer city reputation, and it is no marketing gimmick. The breweries truly anchor the nightlife, the food scene, and how locals and visitors spend their evenings. Here is the honest caveat. Outside the compact downtown, Asheville is hilly and car-dependent, and public transit is limited, so most visitors will end up driving. There is also a weather trade-off, because the mountains pull in a lot of rain, and Asheville sees meaningful precipitation in most months of the year. One more thing you should know up front, which is that this region was hit hard by flooding in late September of 2024. The remnants of Hurricane Helene caused catastrophic, deadly flooding along the French Broad and Swannanoa rivers, the worst disaster in the city's modern history. Recovery has been ongoing since then. The city is open to visitors, and a few riverside areas are still finding their feet. We will cover what that means for your planning later, including which districts to check on before you book anything. For trip length, a long weekend covers downtown, a brewery crawl, and one big attraction like the Biltmore estate comfortably. But 4 to 5 days is the sweet spot, since that lets you add the Blue Ridge Parkway, a couple of hikes, and the outlying craft districts. If you want to add serious hiking, day trips to Mount Mitchell, and the deeper waterfall country, a full week is easily justified here. Most visitors fly into Asheville Regional Airport, known by the code AVL, which sits roughly 13 to 15 miles, or about 21 kilometers, south of downtown. It is a small regional airport, so expect a quick, easy arrival, but a more limited set of direct flights than a major hub would offer. Average one-way fares into Asheville tend to land in the $50 to $90 range, though that swings with season and route, so confirm current pricing. Because it is a small airport, many travelers also fly into a larger hub and drive in, and the road approaches are strikingly scenic. From Charlotte, you take Interstate 40 west for about 2 hours, which is the most common drive-in route for visitors from the Carolinas. From Knoxville, it is roughly 2.5 to 3 hours east on Interstate 40 through the mountains, a beautiful but winding stretch. From Atlanta, plan on about 3.5 hours north, mostly on Interstate 85 and then Interstate 26 into the mountains. There is also limited intercity bus service, with Greyhound and Flixbus running modest schedules to cities like Charlotte, Knoxville, and Atlanta. Those bus fares run roughly $15 to $40 depending on the city, but service is infrequent, so check schedules carefully before relying on it. Now, for getting from the airport into town, the common methods are a taxi, a car service, a rideshare, or a hotel shuttle. A taxi or rideshare downtown typically runs in the $30 range as of this recording, so confirm current pricing before you ride. One practical warning. Rideshare pickups can be hard to book from the airport once you land, so arranging your ride ahead of time is the safer move. Public transit from the airport is minimal and not really built for visitors, so do not count on a city bus for your airport transfer. That brings us to the city bus system itself, run by Asheville Redefines Transit, usually just called ART. A single ride on ART costs about $1, and a 30-day pass runs around $20, with no day or week pass, so confirm current fares. Honestly, though, ART is built for residents, not visitors, with limited coverage and low frequency, so most travelers will not rely on it. That leads to the car question, and the verdict here lands between helpful and required, because the best attractions are spread across the mountains. Downtown itself is very walkable, with galleries, restaurants, and breweries packed into a compact, gridded core you can cross on foot in under 15 minutes. The walkability drops off fast. Outside that core, though, since the city is hilly and steep, and sidewalks get patchy once you leave downtown and Biltmore Village. For rideshare, Uber and Lyft both operate in Asheville, and a typical in-town ride is short and inexpensive, which works well for downtown evenings. If you are driving and staying downtown, parking runs about $1.50 an hour or $12 a day in central garages, so confirm current rates. One note on mountain driving. The main highways like Interstate 26, Interstate 40, and US 74 are good, but back roads are winding, narrow, and steep. In winter, ice and snow can make those mountain roads seriously hazardous, so build in extra time and caution if you visit in the cold months. Asheville's lodging really comes down to a handful of distinct zones, and picking the right one mostly depends on whether you want to walk everywhere or drive. To set expectations, recent hotel data puts typical nightly rates from roughly $105 to $150 across the tiers. Budget rooms tend to land under $120, mid-range options cluster around $120 to $220, and upscale properties run higher. Short-term rentals are common too, with median nightly rates around $120, though local rules restrict some non-owner-occupied rentals in residential zones. Let's start with downtown, which is the clear best zone for most first-time visitors who want to walk to everything. Downtown puts you inside the compact restaurant and brewery grid, so most core dining sits within a 5 to 10 minute walk of your hotel. The trade-off downtown is price and noise, since rates run higher here and the nightlife districts can be lively well into the evening. Strong downtown options include the Kimpton Hotel Heiress, the Foundry Hotel, and the AC Hotel, all rated around 4.5 stars or higher. For a downtown pro and con, the pro is unbeatable walkability to food and beer, while the con is paying a premium for that convenience. Next is the South Slope, which sits just south of the main downtown core and is the heart of the city's brewery district. South Slope is the pick if craft beer is central to your trip, since you can walk between tap rooms like Burial Beer and Green Man. The pro here is being inside the densest brewery concentration in the city, while the con is that it is a nightlife zone, not a quiet retreat. Third is Biltmore Village, a charming, walkable cluster of shops and inns right at the entrance to the Biltmore estate, a few minutes south of downtown. Biltmore Village is the natural base if the estate is your main reason for visiting, since you can reach the gates in minutes. It is worth flagging that Biltmore Village sits in a low-lying riverside area hit by the 2024 flooding, so check the current status of specific properties. The Hampton Inn and Suites in Biltmore Village and the Doubletree Biltmore both sit in this zone and rate around 4.5 stars. For couples wanting a splurge, the standout is the Omni Grove Park Inn, a historic mountain resort north of downtown with sweeping views and a famous spa. The Grove Park Inn carries a 4.6 rating across more than 12,000 reviews, a remarkable volume of consistent feedback. Its trade-off is location, since it sits up in the hills away from the walkable core, so you will drive into town for most meals and nightlife. For a quieter, more local-feeling base, West Asheville sits across the river and offers an independent, residential neighborhood with its own dining strip on Haywood Road. West Asheville suits travelers who want a calmer home base and do not mind a short drive into downtown for the main attractions. Montford is another option, a historic district of bed and breakfasts in restored homes just north of downtown and within walking distance of the core. Montford is the pick for couples who want quiet, characterful inns with an easy walk into downtown, trading chain hotel amenities for historic charm. For families, Biltmore Park, on the south side, and the area near the airport offer larger, newer hotels with easier parking, at the cost of walkability. For budget-focused travelers, look toward the corridors along Tunnel Road and the airport area, where chain hotels run lower nightly rates well away from the downtown premium. For solo travelers, downtown or the South Slope make the most sense, since you can walk safely between breweries and live music venues at night. On loyalty programs, the major chains are well represented here, with Hilton, Marriott, and IHG brands all operating downtown properties, so points travelers have real options. As for zones to be cautious about, the issue is flooding rather than danger, so double-check the current status of any riverside property before booking. Asheville's attractions split cleanly into 3 buckets: the Grand Estate and historic sites, the mountains and outdoors, and the dense downtown arts and beer scene. The single most famous attraction is the Biltmore Estate, George Vanderbilt's enormous French Renaissance chateau of 250 rooms, just south of downtown. Biltmore carries a 4.7 rating across more than 39,000 reviews, exceptional volume, and it anchors a visit for most first-timers. Admission to Biltmore is steep, with adult tickets often running around $80 or more depending on date and add-ons, so book ahead and confirm current pricing. Plan a full half-day to a full day for Biltmore, because between the house, the gardens, and the winery, you can easily fill 4 to 6 hours. Children 16 and under have been admitted free with a paying adult through Labor Day in recent seasons, which softens the family cost, but confirm the policy. The second marquee draw is the Blue Ridge Parkway, the scenic mountain road past Asheville that delivers some of the best overlooks in the east. The Parkway is free to drive, and the Blue Ridge Parkway Visitor Center near town is a good first stop to orient yourself and check road conditions. A short Parkway drive takes an hour or two, but a full day lets you chain overlooks, short hikes, and a picnic, especially in fall. For the highest point, Mount Mitchell is the tallest peak in the eastern United States, reachable by a roughly hour-long drive up the Parkway. Mount Mitchell is best done as a half-day trip, with a short walk to the summit deck, and it is dramatically cooler than the city. The surrounding Pisgah National Forest is the outdoor heart of the region, blanketing the mountains south of town with waterfalls, swimming holes, and trails. The Brevard Gateway, about 45 minutes south, anchors Pisgah highlights like Looking Glass Falls and the natural sliding rock water slide, an easy, scenic half-day. For a bigger trip, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park sits roughly an hour and a half west, and it is the most visited national park in the entire country. Its signature stop is the high overlook at Klingman's Dome, officially renamed Kuwohi in 2024. Which on a clear day gives some of the best long-range views in the east. Because of the drive and the trail time, the Smokies reward a longer stay, so save them for a 4 or 5 day trip rather than a quick weekend. Closer to town, the North Carolina Arboretum offers gardens, mountain views, a bonsai exhibit, and trails, with free admission and a parking fee. The Arboretum carries a 4.8 rating across more than 8,000 reviews, and it works well as a relaxed half-day for gardeners and walkers alike. For the city's craft heritage, the Folk Art Center on the Parkway showcases traditional and modern Southern Appalachian crafts, and it is free to enter. Downtown itself centers on Pack Square Park, a historic public square established in 1903 that hosts festivals and serves as the city's main gathering green. The River Arts District, along the French Broad, packs former industrial buildings full of working artist studios, and it is one of the city's defining cultural zones. It is important to know that the River Arts District was badly affected by the 2024 flooding, so check which studios have reopened before you go. For something truly unusual, the Moogseum honors Bob Moog, the synthesizer pioneer who spent his last 25 years in Asheville, blending music and science. The Basilica of St. Lawrence is another downtown standout, a free-to-enter church famous for its self-supporting domed ceiling, with guided and self-guided architecture tours. For art with a soda fountain, Woolworth Walk fills a restored former Woolworth store with work by around 175 local artists, free to enter. Now to the family and kids angle, which Asheville handles better than its artsy adult reputation suggests. The Western North Carolina Nature Center is a 42-acre native wildlife zoo with more than 60 species, with adult admission around $11 and children about $7. The Asheville Pinball Museum is an all-you-can-play arcade with more than 75 pinball machines, with adult entry around $15 and kids about $12. The North Carolina Arboretum mentioned earlier also lands as a strong kid-friendly outing with open space, trails, and seasonal exhibits the whole family can enjoy. Now let me put this into concrete itineraries, starting with a route built for the first-time visitor who wants the highlights in 2 to 3 days. On day 1 of the first-timers route, spend the morning at Biltmore, arriving near opening to tour the house, then break for lunch on the grounds. That afternoon, explore the Biltmore Gardens and winery. Then head into downtown for an early dinner and an evening walk around Pack Square. On day 2 of the first-timers route, start mid-morning with a drive on the Blue Ridge Parkway, stopping at 2 or 3 overlooks over about 3 hours. After the Parkway, return to town for lunch, then spend the afternoon walking downtown's galleries and the South Slope breweries, ending with dinner downtown. With a third day on the first-timers route, devote the morning to the River Arts District studios, then visit the Folk Art Center in the early afternoon. Next is a route for the outdoor and nature traveler who wants peaks, waterfalls, and trails over 2 to 3 full days. On day 1 of the outdoor route, drive up Mount Mitchell in the morning, walk to the summit, then picnic at an overlook before an afternoon hike. That evening, recover in town with a casual dinner and an early night, since the next day involves more driving and walking. On day 2 of the outdoor route, head south into the Pisgah and DuPont Forest country in the morning to chase waterfalls, packing a trail lunch. Spend that whole day on the forest trails and waterfall overlooks, returning to Asheville in the early evening for a relaxed dinner. On day 3 of the outdoor route, take a gentler morning at the North Carolina Arboretum's Trails and Gardens. Then break for an early afternoon lunch downtown. Finish the outdoor route with a late afternoon visit to the Haw Creek Valley Overlook or a short greenway walk along Reed Creek before dinner. Now, a route for the foodie and beer traveler who is here for the breweries, the farm-to-table scene, and the Appalachian comfort food. On day 1 of the foodie and beer route, start with a big southern breakfast downtown, then spend the late morning at a downtown gallery to walk it off. That afternoon, settle into the South Slope Brewery District for a few hours, walking between tap rooms, then cap the day with a farm-to-table dinner downtown. On day 2 of the foodie and beer route, take a late morning brunch, then tour a larger production brewery in the early afternoon before an evening tapas dinner. A final route suits the arts and culture traveler who is drawn to the studios, the music, and the craft heritage over a focused 2 days. On day 1 of the arts route, spend the morning in the River Arts District studios, lunch nearby, then visit the Black Mountain College Museum that afternoon. That evening, catch live music at a downtown venue, since traditional string band and roots music plays at spots like Jack of the Wood most weekends. On day 2 of the arts route, devote the morning to the Folk Art Center and Grovewood Village, then browse downtown galleries and Woolworth Walk that afternoon. A quick note on seasonality. because fall is peak for the Parkway, when foliage transforms the mountain drives, but the roads and trails get far more crowded. Off-season in winter, the high-elevation Parkway sections can close for ice, so the big mountain drives become unreliable, pushing your time toward downtown. Asheville's food scene punches far above its size, anchored by a nationally recognized farm-to-table movement and the densest craft beer culture in the region. The dominant flavors are Southern and Appalachian comfort food, elevated by chefs sourcing from the small farms and creameries that ring the city in the Blue Ridge. On top of that base sits a surprisingly strong international layer, including notable Spanish tapas, an Indian street food favorite, and a good local Vietnamese scene. The vegetarian and vegan options here are excellent, far beyond what a small southern city would suggest, so plant-based travelers will eat well. The main restaurant cluster is downtown, where dining bars and breweries pack a compact grid, so you can wander between options on foot in the evening. The South Slope, just south of downtown, is the brewery cluster, where tap rooms double as casual food stops, and it flows naturally into a downtown dinner. Let's talk price reality, because dining here is mid-range American by cost, not bargain and not extreme. A casual meal for two runs roughly $20 to $30 at popular spots, while a mid-range dinner for two lands closer to $70 all in. At the upscale end, a fine dining dinner for two can run toward $95 or more before drinks, which is reasonable for the quality on offer. For the signature dish, start with the cat head biscuit, an oversized buttermilk biscuit, so named for being as big as a cat's head. Biscuit Head built a national reputation around that biscuit bar, and a plate runs around $10, making it an easy and very Asheville breakfast. Breakfast and brunch are a real strength here, which matters because most travel content ignores it, and good morning options sit near the hotel zones. Sunny Point Cafe and Biscuit Head are both 4.7 rated breakfast anchors, with thousands of reviews and meals for two around $20 to $30. For the regional plate, chicken and waffles has become a citywide brunch ritual, often built on local eggs and heritage chicken, running around $17. Shrimp and grits is another local fine dining icon, made with stone-ground grits from nearby Appalachian mills, typically around $22 at sit-down spots. For the most Asheville thing on any menu, order a craft beer flight, a tasting board of 4 to 6 small pours sampling the city's brewing range. A flight runs around $16, found at anchors like Highland Brewing, Wicked Weed, Burial Beer, and the New Belgium Tap Room. For barbecue, this region sits at the crossroads of Piedmont and Appalachian traditions, with a pulled pork sandwich around $14 at 12 Bones and Buxton Hall. On the international side, Curate is a standout Spanish tapas bar rated 4.7, where dinner for two runs roughly $40 to $100. Chai Pani has earned national recognition for Indian street food, rated 4.5 across thousands of reviews, with dinner for two around $20 to $30. For something distinctly local, look for ramps in spring, the wild Appalachian leeks that appear on farm-to-table menus from March through May, a true seasonal delicacy. And do not skip sourwood honey, made by bees foraging Blue Ridge sourwood trees, with a buttery, anise-like flavor that is hard to find elsewhere. For dessert, the Appalachian stack cake is a centuries-old heirloom of thin molasses, spiced layers filled with dried apple butter, rarely found outside these mountains, often around $7. On the practical front, the best restaurant concentration is downtown and the South Slope, so staying there lets you leave the car and walk to dinner. One genuine planning note: popular restaurants here often want reservations 1 to 4 weeks ahead on weekends and through the busy spring to fall season, so book early. Let's translate all of this into realistic daily costs, presented per person, per day, across 3 tiers that you can scale to your own trip. Start with the budget tier, which lands around $75 per person per day if you keep things lean. On that budget tier, accommodation works out to roughly $35 to $55 per person. sharing a budget hotel room, or splitting a short-term rental. Food on the budget tier runs about $20 to $30 a day, leaning on a big breakfast, a casual lunch, and cooking, or a cheap dinner. Activities on the budget tier stay near $0 to $10, since the Parkway, the Arboretum grounds, and many galleries and parks are free to enjoy. Transport on the budget tier is modest, around $5 to $10, if you minimize driving and lean on a walkable downtown base. Next is the moderate tier, which comes in around $125 per person per day, and this is where most comfortable trips actually land. On the moderate tier, accommodation runs roughly $55 to $90 per person in a solid mid-range hotel based on 2 people sharing. Food on the moderate tier sits around $40 to $50 a day, covering a restaurant breakfast, a casual lunch, and a proper sit-down dinner. Activities on the moderate tier run about $15 to $25, enough to cover a paid museum or a partial Biltmore experience spread across your stay. Transport on the moderate tier lands near $10 to $20 a day, accounting for a rental car split between 2 people plus parking and fuel. Then comes the comfortable tier, around $200 per person per day, which buys nicer rooms, full restaurant dining, and the marquee attractions without flinching. On the comfortable tier, accommodation runs roughly $75 to $150 per person at an upscale property, again based on sharing. Food on the comfortable tier sits around $60 to $80 a day, covering a tapas dinner, a brewery flight, and a fine dining meal across the trip. Activities on the comfortable tier run about $25 to $40 a day, which absorbs a full Biltmore ticket and other paid attractions over your stay. Transport on the comfortable tier holds near $15 to $25, since a rental car and central parking cost the same no matter how you splurge. For a comparison, Asheville runs noticeably cheaper than the big resort mountain towns of Colorado, where peak season lodging alone can dwarf these figures. The category that runs high relative to its size is lodging on peak fall weekends, when foliage demand pushes rates well above the off-season baseline. By contrast, attractions are a relative bargain, since so much of the core experience, the Parkway, the parks, the galleries, costs nothing to enjoy. One honest caveat on the data: several of these daily figures are synthesized estimates, not surveyed prices, so treat them as planning ranges and check current rates. Asheville's mountain setting gives it 4 real seasons, with milder summers and colder, snowier winters than the surrounding lowland south. Spring warms up fast, with March highs around 18 degrees Celsius or 64 Fahrenheit, climbing to about 22 degrees or 71 Fahrenheit in April. May settles into the low 20s Celsius, around 73 Fahrenheit by day, with overnight lows near 11 degrees or about 52 Fahrenheit, which is comfortable hiking weather. Summer is the warm peak, with July highs near 30 degrees Celsius or 85 Fahrenheit, and humid afternoons that often bring thunderstorms. Summer also brings the heaviest rain of the year, with August averaging close to 190 millimeters across roughly 11 rainy days, so pack for showers. Fall is the standout season, with October highs around 20 degrees Celsius or 68 Fahrenheit, and crisp, clear days that show off the mountains. Winter is the cold trough, with January highs near 6 degrees Celsius or 43 Fahrenheit, and overnight lows around -4 Celsius or 24 Fahrenheit. January and February also bring periodic snow and ice, which is the main reason the high-elevation Parkway sections can close in the cold months. Now to the peak season, which is late September through early November, driven almost entirely by the Blue Ridge fall foliage. That foliage window is spectacular, but it is also the most crowded and most expensive time to visit, with lodging rates climbing sharply. Summer, from June through August, is a second peak, busy with families and festival goers despite the heat and the afternoon storms. The best shoulder window is mid-April through May, when spring blooms arrive, temperatures are mild, and crowds drop well below the summer and fall peaks. That spring shoulder is the value sweet spot. offering excellent hiking weather and lower prices, with the main trade-off being that you miss the fall colors. Early September is another quieter pocket after the summer rush and just before the foliage crowds arrive, with warm but easing temperatures. The off-season runs December through March, excluding the holiday weekends when the city is quietest and rates are lowest. In that off-season, downtown, the breweries, the galleries, and Biltmore all stay open. But the high mountain drives and some trails become unreliable due to ice. So the off-season experience shifts indoors and into town, which is fine if your trip is about food, beer, and the estate rather than peak bagging. If I had to name one best overall window, it is October for the foliage if you tolerate crowds, or May for mild weather with fewer people. A word on flooding, which ties back to the storm mentioned earlier in this guide. The Atlantic hurricane season runs June through November, and remnant tropical systems can stall over these mountains and dump extreme rain. That is exactly what happened in late September of 2024, so during hurricane season, watch the forecast and check the status of riverside areas before traveling. This section gathers the practical details that do not need a full segment but still affect your trip. Start with money, since this is United States territory and the currency is the US dollar, with cards accepted almost everywhere. Credit and debit cards plus mobile payments like Apple Pay are dominant here, so you can run most of a trip without carrying much cash. That said, keep a little cash for tips and small vendors, and note that out-of-network ATMs can add fees of around 3%. Tipping is expected and is a real budget line, with restaurant servers customarily tipped around 18 to 20% of the bill. For hotel staff, plan on roughly $1 to $2 per bag for bellhops and a few dollars a night for housekeeping. Bartenders typically get $1 to $2 a drink, and rideshare drivers around 15 to 20%. On power, this is the standard United States setup, with the usual North American plug type and 120-volt outlets, so domestic travelers need nothing. International visitors from outside North America will want a plug adapter and should confirm their devices handle the voltage, since many do not. Connectivity is solid, with strong mobile coverage in the city and typical Wi-Fi download speeds around 135 megabits, though coverage thins in the surrounding mountains. If you are heading deep into the Blue Ridge, backcountry, expect cellular dead zones, so download offline maps before you drive the Parkway or hit remote trailheads. On safety, the realistic read is that Asheville is a moderate-risk city for petty crime and low for violent crime against tourists, so standard urban precautions apply. The city is widely regarded as one of the most welcoming places in the American South, including for LGBTQ travelers, with an active and visible community. Solo travelers, including solo women, generally report feeling safe in the busy, well-lit downtown core, though the usual caution applies in quieter areas late at night. For nightlife, the concentration is downtown, and the South Slope, built heavily around breweries, tap rooms, and live music venues rather than a club scene. On arts and culture, the anchors are the River Arts District Studios, the Folk Art Center, and a deep live music tradition rooted in Appalachian root styles. On shopping, the character here is strongly independent, with downtown boutiques, galleries, and craft stores far outnumbering chains, plus tailgate and farmers markets for local goods. For one only here fact that boosts decision confidence, Asheville's brewery per capita density is among the highest in the country, which is the backbone of its whole identity. Now to packing, which matters more than in a typical city break because of the terrain and the mountain weather swings. The first packing category is clothing, and the guiding principle is layers, because mountain temperatures can swing sharply between a warm afternoon and a cold morning. For clothing, pack a fleece mid-layer, a light insulated jacket, a packable rain shell, moisture-wicking shirts, and one warmer layer even for summer evenings. The second packing category is footwear and gear, and this is where Asheville earns its reputation as a place you do not want to underprepare for. For footwear and gear, bring sturdy, broken-in walking or hiking shoes, since downtown is hilly and the trails are rocky, plus a day pack and water bottle. If you plan to chase waterfalls or hike the Parkway, add trekking poles for steep descents, a small first aid kit, and offline maps on your phone. One health note for adventure travelers, since standard travel insurance often limits coverage for whitewater rafting, technical mountain biking, and rock climbing, all popular here. If those activities are on your list, look for a policy with an adventure sports rider, since United States medical care is paid up front, then claimed back. So let's bring this together into a clear decision about whether Asheville earns a place on your list. The strongest case is for anyone who treats the outdoors and a dense, independent maker culture of beer, food, and art as one combined trip. Outdoor-driven travelers get the most upside, with the high peaks, the scenic mountain road, and the waterfall forests all a short drive from a city base. It rewards the culturally curious, too, pulled in by the working studios, the live roots music, and a craft tradition woven through daily life rather than staged for visitors. Now, for who this is not ideal for, state it honestly so you can rule it out cleanly. It is a poor fit for travelers who want to skip a car, since outside the walkable downtown core, the city is hilly and underserved by transit. It is also not the right pick if you need reliably dry, sunny weather, since the mountains pull in meaningful rain in most months of the year. And if your trip hinges on the high mountain drives, avoid deep winter, when ice can close the Parkway and turn the marquee scenery unreliable. Here is the value verdict. For a mountain trip blending outdoors, food, and beer, Asheville delivers more depth per dollar than the pricier resort towns out west. And it rewards a 4 to 5 day stay far more than a rushed weekend, so give it the time it deserves. That's our guide to Asheville, North Carolina. Everything mentioned is linked in the description below. If you are planning another trip, we have more guides waiting for you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for watching.